Just as another man was gently wiping her hand, her husband stormed into the cafe with his guys. He grabbed her arm and coldly told her he was taking her home. When the other guy tried to step in, bodyguards immediately slammed him onto the table. Back at their fancy home, she tried to explain that the guy was just an upperclassman from her school who was dropping off an award. Her husband said he believed her, but then he handed her a small wooden box. She opened it and pulled back in horror. Inside were 3 cut-off fingers. Later at the dinner table, she wouldn't eat. Seeing this, her husband ordered the servants to bring out a whole new set of dishes, promising to keep changing it until she was happy. Just then, her stepmother and stepsister burst in, screaming her name. The stepmother demanded money, claiming that since her dead father hadn't officially divorced her, she was owed some money. She screamed that her own daughter deserved a rich husband too, not just her stepdaughter. The wife told her she knew the stepmother had been stealing the money she sent for her sister and using it to gamble. The stepmother didn't care and declared that as long as the father was dead, she was legally her mother and deserved the money. Right then, her husband stepped in. He calmly offered the stepmother a credit card, but as she greedily reached for it, his men grabbed her. He then announced the money wasn't for her living expenses, but was payment for the 2 hands he was about to take as punishment for bothering his wife. The stepmother fell to the ground, begging for mercy and promising to never bother them again before she scrambled away. Seeing how brutal he was, the wife finally broke down. She told him this was why she had to leave him. Furious, he grabbed her, threw her against a wall, and growled that she was never to mention divorce again. He threw her onto the couch, tied her hands. He declared that he was a madman who loved her, and he wouldn't let anyone touch a single part of her. He stared into her eyes, declaring that she wasn't a person, but his private property. He then showed her a stunning white dress, promising to throw her a huge birthday party and even invite her sister to celebrate. But as he left, he ordered his guy to watch her every move. At the big party, her stepmother immediately started in on her, calling her the daughter of a vegetable seller who got lucky marrying into their family. She then demanded that the wife come over and cut her steak for her. In the next second, her husband showed up. He snatched a knife and threw it, pinning it right into the stepmother's steak just inches from her hand. He leaned in close and warned her that once you cross a person's line, they get impulsive, especially with a stepmother who isn't a blood relative. As the stepmother stared in terror, he told her not to test his limits, or next time, he wouldn't know what might happen. He then turned to his wife, telling her not to let unimportant people ruin her mood, and led her away to see her birthday gift. In the bathroom, he opened a box to show her a gorgeous diamond necklace. He told her that he had spent $20 million on it, because the moment he saw it, he knew it belonged to her. But she looked at him coldly and said that he never understood what she really wanted. Then she said the one word he couldn't stand to hear: divorce. He grabbed her, kissing her violently to shut her up. He forced her to look in the mirror and told her it didn't matter if she disliked the gift. He had others. Only then did she see it. He pressed the cold steel of a gun to the back of her head and whispered that he would give this to her instead. With a gun pressed to her head, he tearfully confessed that his mother had been just like her, always trying to get away. He remembered watching his own father drag her back time and time again, until finally she left for good. As he held his unconscious wife, he lowered the gun, only to show that it was empty. He told her not to be scared. He only wanted to understand why his father had to keep his mother a prisoner. It was only after meeting her, he whispered, that he finally understood it was because of love. He promised her they would be together forever. As he held her, her sister came into the room. Later, the wife met her sister in the bathroom and showed her the bruises on her arm. She explained that this was his care, which wasn't caring at all, but a twisted need to own her. Realizing her sister planned to run away, she offered to help. A moment later, the sister burst into the dining room, screaming that her sister was on a cliff and about to jump. The husband sprinted to the seaside cliff and found his wife standing on the edge of the rocks, staring into the rough sea below. He fell to his knees, begging her to come back, admitting he was wrong and promising he would never hurt her again. He pleaded with her not to be like his mother, but she turned and told him it was too late. She said that she hoped they would never meet again in the next life, before she turned and jumped into the raging water. He could only scream in pain as he watched her disappear under the waves, before diving in after her, screaming that he would find her, no matter what. A woman was desperately running for her life, hunted through a dark forest by men led by her own husband. She broke through the trees and threw herself onto the road, right in front of an oncoming car. She pounded on the window, begging the driver for help. Just as the man chasing her closed in, the driver let her in and sped away. But what she didn't know was that her own sister had set up the whole attack, all so she could steal her husband. The woman was taken to the driver's office, only to realize he was a plastic surgeon. She made a desperate plea for him to change her face. He refused, saying that only criminals ask for something like that. She broke down and confessed that the real criminal was her husband, and the surgery was her only chance to survive. Meanwhile, her husband was furious, ordering his men to use every resource to find her. dead or alive, vowing that if they failed, they would all be buried with her. 1 month later, her transformation was done. The doctor asked if she was ready and began to slowly unwrap the bandages, revealing her new face and her first step toward getting revenge. When his sister-in-law dared to suggest his missing wife might be dead, he exploded with anger, threatening to kill her if she ever said those words again. But what he didn't know was that his wife was not only alive, but she also had a completely new face. As the bandages came off, she cried with thankfulness, vowing that her old life was over forever. The surgeon who saved her offered her a place to stay, but when she accidentally knocked over a book, a photo fell out, showing a horrifying secret. The new face she had been given belonged to the surgeon's wife, who had died 5 years earlier. He explained their marriage had just been for convenience, but now he offered her the best protection. To truly escape her husband, she must pretend to be his dead wife. The perfect time to show off her new identity would be at his friend's upcoming wedding. The woman agreed. As she arrived with the surgeon, she was confronted by a jealous rival, but the surgeon introduced her to everyone as his wife. But just as she began to feel safe, the door swung open and her murderous husband walked in. He froze, his eyes locking onto the face of the woman he had been hunting, leaving him completely stunned. But the surgeon calmly introduced her as his wife. The man was stunned that she had already remarried, but it was only when she turned away that he noticed her familiar smell and the scar on her arm. In the restroom, she was viciously attacked by a jealous rival, who was furious that the surgeon was with another woman. But just as the rival raised her hand to hit her, the husband grabbed her wrist, his eyes burning with fury. He was the head of the powerful Shen family, and no one dared to cross him. When she finally escaped the confrontation, she collapsed in a panic attack as a napkin fell from her purse. A napkin with her old lipstick stain on it. The husband picked it up and was immediately hit with a wave of memories. He chased after her, grabbing her and demanding to know why she was so afraid of him. Just as he was about to force her to look at him, the surgeon stepped in, shielding her from view and claiming her as his own wife. Back in the safety of the car, she finally broke down and confessed the unbelievable truth. Her husband was also his uncle. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, whispering her name, believing it was the woman he loved. But when she turned around, his eyes widened in shock. It wasn't his love, but her younger sister. She tried to explain that she was only there to take care of him, since he hadn't eaten in days, claiming she had to wear her sister's clothes, after getting her own dirty while cooking. He couldn't stand to see another woman wearing her things. He violently threw her out of his house. Just then, his phone rang. It was the nursing home. His wife's father was refusing to eat, and they couldn't get a hold of her. He rushed to the hospital to find the old man weak and not responding. To get him to eat, he was forced to lie, telling him that his daughter was away on a trip and would visit him in 2 days. Believing his daughter was safe, the old man finally ate. Furious with the staff for letting things get so bad, he fired the attending doctor and nurse on the spot. He stormed out of the room and down the hall, just as his wife was walking toward that very same room to visit her father. The two of them passing like strangers in the hallway. She slammed hard into the medical cart, the impact sending her sprawling across the hospital floor, as the man she was hiding from walked right past, completely unaware. Just moments before, she had been having a tearful reunion with her father, promising to rescue him from that place. But when she picked up his phone, a shocking discovery sent her into a panic. Her ex-husband was coming back. She had to run. As she ran, she crashed to the ground, but he never even turned his head. Back in the room, he instantly sensed she had been there when he noticed the freshly clipped nails on his father-in-law's hands. He grabbed the old man, demanding to know if his daughter had visited, but the old man was too scared to answer. The truth, however, was clear on the security camera footage. He watched himself walk right past her. He yelled for her to come out, declaring that he knew she was in there, while pounding non-stop on the door as she hid in the shower. Her new husband tried to step in, but the man shoved him aside and kicked open the bathroom door. She screamed, but it wasn't her he was after. The new husband, realizing the truth about his wife's identity, tackled his uncle, and the two men fought hard. The woman cried for them to stop, but the obsessed man grabbed her husband by the collar, furious that he would protect the very woman who had caused his real wife's death. The argument got more intense until she finally stepped between them, admitting she had lied about visiting a relative and had actually gone to see her father. The man didn't believe her, but he couldn't prove she was lying. He warned her to stay away from his nephew and stormed out, vowing to find out the truth. Later, as she packed her bags to move out, her new husband begged her to stay. He gave her a credit card with no limit, insisting she take it as a friend. At her new job, she was immediately made fun of by a jealous coworker who mocked her clothes and her old computer, cruelly snatching her notebook and sneering that she wasn't good enough to compete for the team leader position. Just as the woman was about to leave the office, the man slammed the door shut, trapping her. He violently pinned her against the wall, his eyes filled with fury as he accused her of stealing his wife's design. Just that morning, the woman's husband had made a surprise visit to her office, bringing her a new designer handbag and laptop. Her jealous coworker had made fun of her for marrying a rich man. He explained that since she had refused to use the credit card he gave her, he had decided to buy her everything she needed himself, telling her that good accessories would bring her good luck. His words turned out to be true. Shortly after, her boss announced that her design had been chosen by a major client. She was thrilled and was told to get ready for a meeting to present her design idea that very afternoon. When she entered the client's office, she was stunned to find that the client was the same man who would later attack her. He revealed that he was searching for his wife, who had gone missing, and then coldly accused her of copying, pointing out the shocking similarity between her design and his wife's work. She tried to explain that she had simply borrowed a style she liked online, not knowing that it belonged to his wife. But he refused to believe her, his suspicion growing as he revealed he knew she had heard about his wife's disappearance. He grabbed her, his voice a low threat, promising that he would find his wife and that they would meet very soon. Shaken, the woman immediately tried to quit the project, but her boss refused, telling her the project was too important. At that moment, a new woman arrived, introducing herself as a major client, and demanded that the project be handed over to her. The boss had no choice but to agree. This new woman then began to torture the original designer. She demanded hot tea, and when it was brought to her, she deliberately spilled it on the woman, burning her, and then complained that her shoes were dirty. She ordered the woman to kneel and clean them. As she was forced to wipe the shoes, the woman taunted her, calling her a poor girl from the countryside who didn't deserve her husband. She threatened that her powerful family could ruin her with a snap of their fingers and make her disappear from the city. Just as she finished her threat, a cold voice cut through the air, asking if that was so. It was her husband, and he had heard everything.